Something really bad is going to happen, and we need to be as far away from here as humanly possible when it does. And as you know, this bad thing happened. So, it seems that Waverly and Usman could not escape. Today I will break down the whole plot of Banban's Kindegarten to understand. Why did this bad thing happen? How it comes so? It all started with the fact that a certain group of scientists began to fulfill an order for a prestigious kindergarten for wealthy parents. The idea was put by the founder and was to create unique animals and use them to teach children basic examples of behavior. The idea seems impossible, but it's a game. Parents knew little about science, but financed the kindergarten and sent their offspring there. But they started watching YouTube. It's joke, haha. There are two bosses behind the garden. This is a group of scientists leading the development and their bosses. The general scientist, Uthman Adam, who was a professional doctor in his own right, oversaw scientific processes and invented monsters for the kindergarten. The task of the monsters was to imitate human behavior and set an example for kids to follow. A whole group of scientists worked for one kindergarten. Huge amounts of money were pouring in at that time. Usman, along with scientists, found an interesting substance that completely replaces blood in certain types of organisms. Givenium is green and stored in barrels. Givenium, it has no analogs in the real world, and it is fictional, but it is also possible that it was made from some real analogs by synthesis. The substance was rare and did not grow on trees, as I learned from the notes. I will tell the whole story building a chronology according to the notes. Givenium as the beginning of everything. Case 1. Subject Givenium. Update 1 Summary. The case mentioned in the previous report has moved an arm, as if its artificial nervous system has worked for a split second. As predicted, givenium seems to provide identical functions to blood when combined with cases 3 and 6 of type 5. Mammalian circulatory system care ineffective. The case of type 2 from the previous report has also had a strange physical effect. Givenium appears to expand in size where it is set to flow, and as a result, the case has grown a number of veins across his body and has grown significantly in size. Neither growth appears to have any kind of negative effect besides the risk of looking unpleasant to youths. We are going to proceed with adding more cases of type 5 into the case of type 2 from the previous report in pursuit of a more lifelike behavior. Studies on givenium continue to be performed. At first, scientists tried to create at least something alive. And these were the first attempts. Scientific researchers improved new cases over and over again. This was the name of the whole procedure carried out with the patient and recorded in a separate document. The cases were based on various genetic codes belonging to real animals and even people. And they collected custom-made animals from them for Uthman Adam. He led the entire development and received reports. Soon, scientists received a rather interesting case, which we all know as Banban. Case 6. Genomes Human Givenium. Update 1 alias the Devil. Summary. The procedure on Case 6 has been a success. Case 6 is stable and performs tasks that are necessary for organic beings, such as eating and drinking, as predicted despite the lack of any biological necessity to do so. As previously observed on other cases with humans as the primary genome, Case 6 recalls many memories and events belonging to the original genome donor as their own, excluding names of people, as well as keeping an identical level of intelligence. Case 6 is also capable of speech as fluently as the original genome donor. Unlike the previous cases with humans as the primary genome, Case 6 is interestingly docile and cooperative, albeit very confused about the circumstances. Most previous cases displayed extremely hostile and nervous behavior towards staff and children alike, a behavior that has been attributed to the new genetical modifications that were applied. Case is not ready for presentation. In fact, this was the first unique case from which scientists could get much more information and conduct advanced tests, because this case spoke English. The scientists did just that. Trying to find out more, they immersed Case 6 in details. Of course, they called him the devil very rudely in my opinion, but he was red in color, and he really has processes resembling horns, on which they later put on festive caps, apparently so that he would not seem so scary. Also case 6, which we know as Banban couldn't figure out why he wasn't treated like a human, and he thought he was a human. Imagine, you wake up one morning but not in your bed as usual, but in a hospital bed. There are a lot of people around you in white coats and everyone is looking in surprise and doing some kind of tests, trying to explain to you that you are not a person. This is how Banban feels. We also observe the transfer of memories in the game when the Banban over the speakerphone tells us about the reward system at his work and about the drones used by the employees. And initially we think that this is the Kindegarten employee until we see his real appearance. Scientists appreciated this case and used it to the maximum in their research. But the more they tried to explain to him what he was, the more he ceased to understand what was happening. Case 6. Update 2. Summary communication with Case 6 has provided invaluable information that may explain why previous cases have sorely failed, as well as improve the creation of future cases. Despite being seemingly incredibly intelligent, it does not appear to recognize itself as a non-human. When addressed as a non-human, Case 6 reacts with confusion. Reflections also have no effect, as Case 6 appears to see itself as the human genome donor. A meeting between Case 6 and the human genome donor has not yet been conducted. Case 6 describes a constant immense pain that is present in the entirety of its body. Despite the human genome donor of Case 6 being a doctor, the case has failed to give a description more detailed than the pain having to do with the blood flow. Case 6 has no blood in their systems, only givenium. Case is not ready for presentation. So scientists learned that their creatures are constantly in pain. And as you and I understand, and scientists also understood this, it was a certain feature of the work of such a circulatory system. The veins of the creatures swelled like with varicose veins. Apparently this caused pain, and, in fact, could not be corrected at that time. There are moments in the game that indicate the incessant pain of the monsters. These are the direct words of a snail. It hurts, and the words of Banban in one of the dialogues with us. He tells us that he ran out of sedatives and had to take something from us that he could only take while we were sleeping. As a doctor, perhaps he knew how to calm this pain, and knew how to make painkillers. He himself talks about antidepressants. Banban or Case 6, since this is the genome of a doctor, he could do anything with dreams. Maybe he took our blood to create new monsters. Maybe he cut out the pancreas. After communicating with Banban, the scientists decided on a risky experiment. They introduced Banban to a donor for his genome, that is, to the very person whose memories were transferred to him and who he considers himself to be. I think this was the worst idea in the history of the worst ideas. Case 6, Update 3. Summary: Case 6 was introduced to its human genome donor, a doctor in the facility known as UA for short today, and the results were not what was hoped for. Case 6 first treated UA like they did any stranger, with a civil greeting and a handshake. Case 6 up to this point has been referring to himself as UA, but when the real UA finished explaining to Case 6 that they were the original genome donor, they attempted to explain some of the science behind givenium procedures. Mid-sentence, Case 6 became extremely agitated and attempted to attack UA before being subdued by security. UA is getting treated for minor injuries. Case 6 is in solitary confinement. Since the revelation, Case 6 has refused to communicate with any and all employees with the exception of Dr. Wei M, whom he had personally requested to speak to. The request has not been granted for Wei M's safety. Case is not ready for presentation or testing. How the Banban lies in isolation is recorded on the cassette. You can even not pick it up and just find it in the game files. It's funny, I found these files when I was going through the garbage in my computer and I lost something. Here is the second recording from the cassette in the parkour zone, on which a small plasticine man resembling Jumbo Josh is given an injection of apparently givenium by a man in gloves. The dude is lying on a piece of toilet paper starting Easter egg. But back to that doctor. I want to draw your attention to his initials. UA coincide with the name Usman Adam. It turns out that he became a donor. and everything that he knows about the developments in the laboratory exactly until the moment the Banban appears, the Banban also knows. And one more familiar initials, coincide with the name of the same teacher, Warley Mason. Now it became clear that Beverly also had a degree. Take Weverly's ability to teach children and add some givenium. But wait, is that true? Although there is no information in the game about a case that would be similar to Banbalina, but many details hint that she was made from the Waverly Mason genome. This is a close cooperation of doctors in life, the general plan of which I will talk about a little later, and correspondence. Although the interaction between Banbalina and Banban is not completely clear, many details hint at the same cooperation as monsters. Yes, and the Banban himself, after the incident with the attack on his daughter, asked to talk to Weverly. That is, this confirms that she is indeed a very close friend. Unlike Banban, Banbalina is often aggressive and hysterical, well, in principle, like any woman. Haha. And perhaps givenium enhanced this effect of the genotype. As for Banban himself and his attitude towards the parent who came to the kindergarten for his child, that is, to us in general, I don't think that Banban would like to help us, because he still doesn't understand what is happening, because he still considers himself a man, but he is one of the monsters. He is strong like them and also possesses all memories of his donor doctor, which means we will have to cooperate with him during the game if we want to find out more. But you should not believe him, since he is unlikely to trust us and has already deceived several times when he said that he was locked in the room and when he apologized for hitting us. He needs us to sort out his problem. But if he realizes the truth, he will most likely go berserk. Meanwhile, scientists were creating new cases using completely different genotypes. The next case turned out to be unpredictably unusual. Case Update Report. Case 10. Genomes. Phenicopterus roseus givenium. Update 2, alias the bird. Summary. After the recent genetic modifications that were applied to Case 10, significant behavioral changes have been observed. Aggression towards certain demographics has been completely replaced with protective and motherly behavior. Said demographics include individuals of small stature, high-pitched voices, and those with childlike attributes. Individuals that do not fall into said demographics are still met with extreme aggression that can turn lethal due to the case's large size and possession of a very sharp beak. Oddly, said demographics are almost exclusively human, with the exception of Case 10I, Case 10B, Case 10C, Case 10D, Case 10E, and Case 10F. All organic organisms, birds included, both adult and young, are met with the same level of aggression as humans who do not possess children-related attributes. Case is not ready for presentation. We have known this case since the first part. And yes, Opila is still mother. Although it's more fun if it father. Haha. Well, not to distort the plot. So Mother Opila calmly treats small children and will protect them from any adults. The observation of her continued further, because she still rushed at adults and behaved quite aggressively. A new genome was used. Also from the cases about this bird, I learned why all the creatures of Banban's garden have a seam on their backs. Yes, absolutely everyone, Jumbo Josh, Captains, Fedless, Banbalina, Banban must also have this seam. Everyone has it. The fact is that in order to carry out the so-called modifications described in the cases, bone marrow transplantation was performed, and this requires a whole complex procedure, which is called in the scientific language conditioning. The old spinal cord is completely killed, and a new donor one is implanted. Apparently, the new genome was introduced to patients through the bone marrow. Case Update Report. Case 10. Genomes Struthiocamelus givenium. Update 4. Summary. It remains unknown why Case 10 is aggressive towards all adults. Conditioning also remains as effective as it was in the first report. What has been discovered, however, is the reasoning behind the seemingly random instances where Case 10's eyes became bloodshot. Bloodshot eyes have also been linked to unusually high levels of aggressiveness. This behavior has been concluded to be the direct result of Case 10 witnessing or hearing the suffering of Cases 10I, 10B, 10C, 10D, 10E, 10F. Despite having an abnormal color scheme, and any and all individuals possessing childlike attributes. Examples of said childlike attributes have been described in the second update report. Case is not ready for presentation. If, in short, the bird does not like it when children's individuals suffer. Remember when we first met Opila bird again, with bloodshot eyes, we first went down to the lower levels of the garden, where more and more patient monsters are encountered, Opila comes across to us several times and with bloodshot full eyes. All patients of the kindergarten feel pain, and this phrase with pain flashes all over the kindergarten, it's hurt. At the first top level, we will only find this phrase if we make an effort. It will found in the Pascal from Waverley Mason ticket and from Usman Adams ticket, when we find the lobby of Jumbo Josh and his brothers and sisters. We read texts in which there are elements of entertainment that are cake music friends and elements of aggression that turn us into a mess, and the element of pain is the very phrase that hurts. Let's remember the note of our missing child who was going to fight the monster. Apparently, the child was different if the bird really spun aggression towards him. But there is a second note where the child plays with Opila bird and calls it a holy bird. This note says that Miss Mason left the child when he was with the bird, and when the ball pit collapsed, firstly, the bird could attack Miss Mason thinking that the child is in danger. Secondly, she knew that the ball pit would break, as I learned from the note. The note was found in a closed room, which can only be accessed after completing most of the game and reaching the room with fireworks and a task from Stinger Flan. After passing the mini-game, you need to take a rocket and go back to the medical center where we shot Big Captain Fedless in the eye. You need to charge the gun again and the secret card will be revealed. It also shows an example of using two different cases to create new ones. We see that the captain of the Fedless and the Banban or Banbalina have common details that provide them with vital functions and the ability to speak. But Banban was made from the genome of a very educated person, and Captain Fedless was created from the genome of an ape, as I learned from this case. Case Update Report. Case 12G. Genomes Brachytels Hypoxanthus givenium. Update 5. Elias the Child Monkey. Summary. Case 12J has surpassed all other sub-cases in all presented attributes, which include intelligence, agility, and imitation. As desired, Case 12G imitates the behavior of a very obedient human toddler, which is perfect to showcase appropriate behavior to real children. Case 12D shows extreme levels of stress when not near their assigned caregiver, but the levels of stress do not turn into violent fits of rage as observed in other Case 12Js, only what has been deciphered as crying. In terms of intelligence, Case 12G is capable of performing simple mathematical operations using not only shapes, but also the traditional number system. However, Case 12G is incapable of comprehensible speech. In terms of agility, Case 12G shows exceptional stamina, with climbing abilities that surpass those of real primates. Case is ready for presentation. And you might be asking, why are the captains Fedless in the game caught by us dead? We also collect givenium from them in order to open the door with a key card. And the answer to this question is contained in a note on the table near the cannon. I don't know what happened. 1 second they were as possible and peaceful easy kindergarten toddler, and the next they were ripping the place apart. I think the loud crash might have started the I didn't know they were that prone to their instincts. Myself and the rest of the survivors are currently cornered in the main hallway. We are running low on ammunition and energy to defend ourselves. At least this cannon prop they brought here the other day is finally being put to use. It's only a matter of time before we're left defenseless, and when we do I have to think about that those things will do to us. We're heading for the lower levels when we see an opening. Nobody's been down there in a while and it should be a safer place to wait this out. If we make it, I must leave it at that because I am getting yelled at for writing this and not helping. Save yourself and get out of here if you can. And the further scientists did new cases, the more uncontrollable aggressive organisms became. By the way, one very aggressive Captain Fedless still survived. Apparently, some additional modification was made on him, from which he became a giant. And the scientists themselves periodically collected the givenium from the captains and left the instructions on the wall, which also states that before extracting the givenium from the giant, you need to distract it. Scientists had to work in wild conditions. The passage to the giant Captain Fedless was closed with beds, and a warning was written on the other side. In fact, the wall and not a comfortable position is all that held back the giant. Well, in the end, we still frightened him with a cannon, and he crawled into the abyss. The scientists continued to make cases, but Uthman began to hurry, apparently because of the slow results, but severe pain throughout the body and unforeseen aggression in many cases slowed the scientists down as it was a problem. Also, more and more givenium was required for modifications. The work has slowed down. In addition, the higher authorities, judging by further notes, were generally not aware of the chaos that was happening due to the aggressive behavior of new creatures on the lower floors, or they didn't care. Uthman, although he occupied a special position in the structure of the Kindergarten, but only led the development of cases, giving tasks to younger employees, and doing the work of his leadership. He was in a hurry for a special day. Soon he received a response to his demands not to stop and work more. Dear Uthman, I am writing you to inform you that we have received and assessed your objection to our decision regarding limiting the number of cases to conduct tests on to 10 and from 10 to 6. We have collectively decided that we would not honor your request and stick with the initial decision, with the reason being that we simply cannot spare enough resources to make your lovely creations come to life if this is how much it takes. This is especially the case considering what has already been wasted resources-wise with very slow progress, and especially after the misunderstanding with Case 12 and its sub-cases, which cost us fortunes. We're talking one presentable case often in months. The customers are getting upset because we are not delivering what was promised, and getting sued right now is not in our best interest. As much as we want this to be case, givenium does not grow on trees and our friends down south can only get so much. We understand that this might not be the news you wanted to hear, but this is how it has to be. Use what you have left very carefully and see if you can have more presentable cases before the upcoming Bring a Friend Day. Bring a friend. It's a special day when kindergarten customers finally got to see where they poured their money, when already real cases had to interact with children. It is clear that, in fact, no one could behave safely enough, because even the monkey captains of the Fedless were very dangerous because of their strength many times greater than human. It was enough to scare them. Some employees understood where everything was going, and they obviously did not like it. The next friendly letter, I believe, was between Uthman and Waverly Mason. But in English you will understand who writes, a woman or a man, so I suppose that Uthman was upset that the work was slowing down, and in fact, he did not have time to fulfill his promises to clients by the Bring a Friend Day, and he wrote Waverly with the following text. A friendly letter. Hey, I just heard the news, and it upsets me just as much as it upsets you, but I do feel we can turn it back around if the sex we proceed with turn out well. In fact, we have to turn it back around if we want our little secret down in the basement to stay a secret. Solpheus can only stay asleep if nobody goes to investigate. I think the ones we should drop are the spider, the frog, and the snail. The spider honestly gives me the creeps, and if it gives me the creeps, it's going to give children the creeps. The frog's only purpose is be the police in town, but if there is no bad guy to catch, there is no need for police. I was torn between the green guy and the snail for the last one. I like the snail more, but I feel it won't be any hyperactive child's favorite, so let's drop that one. But at least we were offered to have the drawn on the walls to not let them be forgotten. Cheer up. That is somewhere in the depths of Uthman and Waverly they also hide some Zolphius, and apparently if you don't bring a friend to demonstrate at least something on the upcoming day, the clients will want to go down and check where the money goes, and this should not be allowed under any circumstances. And another letter probably from Uthman for Waverly. This is bad. This is very bad. I just revised the architecture behind the ball pit, and it's a miracle this thing hasn't yet collapsed. The thing can barely support the amount of children we have enrolled in the kindergarten. We're having double that tomorrow. Something really bad is going to happen, and we need to be as far away from here as humanly possible when it does. We've been on the bad side of the wrong people for a long time, and if we're still here when everything goes down, it will be the end of us both. If not at the hands of angry parents, then at the hands of our superiors. Do not bring one's attention to this matter unless you wish us both a big involuntary dive into the abyss. A place like this should not exist. The stuff we've witnessed here should not exist. The casualties that will result from this catastrophe will only serve the greater good, which is shutting down this place once and for all. I'll have a plan ready for tomorrow. Now, you just pack your things. As you might have guessed, Uthman and Waverly decided to run away before disaster struck. More incidents began to occur on the lower floors. Escape is all that remains, but apparently they did not have time to escape. After all, the tickets were still lying on the tables. And it becomes clear that Waverly and Uthman were really close friends. The escape was calculated to another country. Because it is obvious that when law enforcement agencies arrive at the scene they will be put on the wanted list. And in parallel with all the events, some employee decides to print such a terrible document. This is neither a report nor anything informative in the traditional sense, but a cry for help. Whoever's reading this, I implore you to discuss stopping this madness once and for all. Matters are bound to be sugar-coated when written through some colorful paper, but you do not seem to understand how bad things truly are. Every single case that has been developed thus far is in endless excruciating pain. We do not know why, and maybe we are not meant to. I cannot imagine any of them ever being near a child, and maybe they never should be. It would be unrealistic to shut everything down abruptly, so all of them asking for is for you to get down here and see things for yourself. Do not live up to the evil faceless corporate entity stereotype. Please. It is not known whether this report reached Uthman, and whether anyone read it at all. But it was obvious that no creatures created by the givenium could be safe. Most likely all work with givenium is carried out on the lower floors of the garden, where we go down to meet Banban again and find out more details. It is difficult to understand exactly who exactly all these reports are addressed to. Most likely they are simply published by different departments. One department deals with givenium, another department deals with patients and their genetics. And unformed notes are just someone's letter. But this case looks like a sincere cry for help. Considering the system that Banban was talking about, let me remind you that he has all the memories of Uthman. New employees had to work hard to earn points, and old-timers with good points were allowed to come to work later. Thus, in the corporate party, a certain detachment of successful employees from less successful ones was formed and separated scientists. And aggressive animals are not all that happens in the kindergarten. At the very bottom there is a certain abyss. Apparently, both Uthman and Waverly knew about it, because Uthman said that he did not want to involuntarily plunge into the abyss. And in this abyss dwells the same Sulfius. And Banban, before we escaping along the Opila bird alley, tells us, down there is someone stronger than us, there it is in the abyss. About which we learn from the very first note found, and it is called the doomed letter. This is it. The things I've done have finally come back to bite us. Everyone's gone, and the whispers from the abyss just keep getting louder. I think I ever saw a face or two looking up at me. We were told everything that gets thrown into the abyss dies, but it appears we were tricked. If you're reading this, take my advice and leave. Everything here should be forgotten and erased from history. It looks like some kind of experiment is clearly out of control, and in order not to mess with it, it was simply hidden somewhere deep in this very abyss. Also, from the note, it can be assumed that everything living and unwanted was thrown there. And there it became something different, but here it is difficult to say something because of insufficient information specifically about throwing out failed cases. However, when passing through the medical center, this one suddenly appears from the abyss, and it is alive and even makes a sound. And next to him, it's damn scary. Perhaps it does not notice us because of its size, but it can be seen as it stretches deep down, and the length of this creature is not known. Perhaps this is the same face from the note, and if you still doubt that it is Olive, just the next time you get to parkour and grab the cassette, pay attention, go back to the TA, it will disappear. It disappears a little earlier. After opening the door to the snail's hall in the test sector, you can immediately notice its disappearance. Is it Sulfius or part of him? What exactly provoked him to get out is not clear. Maybe a giant Fidels fell somewhere there, and this crap woke up. Or maybe she woke up just after a day. Bring a friend. Bring a friend. Finally, we can summarize all the information received. Monsters, givenium, a broken ball pit, an important day of case presentations, and everything literally went down the drain. It is clear that the swing collapsed, although it was possible to close it, and it seems that Uthman and Waverly did it. But something went wrong. Maybe the kids got in there uncontrollably. And I won't invent and say that it's possible to bring a friend for a day. They still brought one case. This is Opila. Perhaps the parents didn't come that day. You and I come to the kindergarten after all the events. That is, yes, most likely the management somehow agreed to bring the children, but there were no parents. In general, it is rather difficult to argue here. Yet, it seems that the abyss over the swing leads somewhere to where Sulfius is. I still do not understand how it was possible to build such a dangerous place right under the kindergarten, perhaps for convenience. As a result, there were a lot of child victims. As we know, our child, along with the girl he liked, is in the clutches of a huge jellyfish pumped up with givenium. Stinger Flynn. It is around him that the third chapter will be built. It was a complete analysis of the plot according to the notes. This is an awesome story. I hope you liked it. Be sure to share the video. Until new videos on Bombactus World Baby.
Hello.